it Act 3, Scene 1. To add tech or not tech? That is the question. Whether 'tis nobler in the mind to suffer the slings and arrows of outrageous platforms, or to take up arms against a sea of coders, and by opposing, end them, to die, to code no more. Scene. So, thank you all for the warm welcome. I thought instead of doing kind of the long bio read, I'd have each of you guys introduce yourselves, tell us who you are, and then if you would, since you're all founders, which is an amazing thing, will you tell us a little bit, let's try and keep it probably 30 or 40 seconds, talk to us about how you came up with the idea for your company. What was that moment like? When did you know this was what you were going to do? John.
Okay, I've got this thing on in case Vikram asks difficult questions. I think that's a difficult one. For us, we had a search business in the 90s, so search engine technology, and my co-founder built this thing called Grapeshot, and the first person to see it was Peter Norvig, who ran search at Google. And he said, you can do 3 things we can't do, at which point I thought we should set up another business.
That'll do it. Andy.
Hi, Andy Monfried. I think the moment that I knew I had a business was when I was at advertising.com. Each morning we'd had a war room meeting and we were buying a ton of publisher inventory from sites like Intermix, Kazaa, and social sites at the time were called user-generated content. And we would get away with paying less than 2 cents CPM for that inventory because nobody wanted it, and we were selling it for 50 cents. And the publishers didn't know what to do with it. So my co-founder and I built a platform to ingest social data in 2007. And when we first showed it to a bunch of publishers and they were willing to spend anywhere from 5 to 10 to 15,000 a month to manage their data that way, I knew we were onto something.
Awesome. Eric?
Great. Good morning. I'm Eric Litman. I'm the founder and CEO of Medialets. God, how did I start this business? Entirely by accident. So it was May 31st, 2008. My wife and I were living in DC. I was running a venture capital fund. We decided to move to New York, more or less on a whim. We were going to take a couple of years. My son was 2 at the time, find a school for him, pick a neighborhood, get settled. I woke up on June 1, ready to do nothing, took a shower, ate a little breakfast, 9:15-ish runs around. I thought to myself, shit, what am I going to do today? So I gave myself about 4 hours to run through options to pick a new business. I picked the one that I'm more or less in today. By June 4th, I had about 14 people in place, and by July 11th, which is the day the App Store launched, we managed to launch the business. So it was a mix of insanity, a tremendous amount of caffeine, and circumstances that just forced a decision.
I'm Jeff Green, the CEO and founder of The Trade Desk. When I decided to start The Trade Desk, I was working at Microsoft. You may know that I founded AdECN, sold that to Microsoft. And there we were pioneering RTB. And when we started to feel like RTB was inevitable, that was when I knew I wanted to leave and start a business that actually played in the game. Because we were always talking about how exchanges really needed to be a referee and not a player. But as soon as the game was fair enough that it was going to be inevitable and that RTB was inevitable, I wanted to get in the game. And that's when I decided there would come a time when I would leave Microsoft and start The Trade Desk.
Awesome. All right, can we see a quick show of hands? Marketers?
Wow.
Publishers? People who live in the middle? Analysts who are here because of the rocket fuel or Twitter IPO? All right.
There are a lot of hands that didn't go up. Can everybody else just raise their hand to make sure that we're all actually here?
All right, that was a leading question. So the first question I'm going to put to the whole panel is, I don't think anyone expected the rocket fuel IPO to take off. I mean, given the name, we should have expected that. But it was a surprise, and it's woken up a lot of people. Reactions?
So I think the rocket fuel IPO is awesome. I think it's fantastic. It's great that they're doing so well. I imagine that the C-levels at Rocket Fuel have to worry in the same way that perhaps Elon Musk has to worry, which is like, wow, the market is really paying me for the future. They have high hopes for me. Can I live up to all these expectations? On behalf of the industry, I hope they do. I hope they continue to do really well. because I think that they perhaps can help a bunch of companies that are soon to go public create a new category. Not the old ad tech that do things the old way, but actually the new category, which is centered around programmatic. So hope they continue to do well, and so far I think it's great for the industry. Hopefully it's sustainable.
Okay. The next question, we're going to start getting a little more specific. So Andy, your company is obviously DMP. It's out to help publishers figure out what to do with their data. One of the things that's interesting for me, having worked at a couple of different publishers that works with both their data and data that's available in the market, is that it's absolutely not a silver bullet, right? We know that. Certain publishers are hoping that something will happen. Some have the data to actually make it interesting, and some are trying to figure it out. What do you think that publishers in the space who are just beginning to understand what data assets they have should be thinking about? And at what point should they decide this is either for me or not?
It's a good question. So the first thing I would say is people have become so reliant on retargeting when it comes to thinking about data, and I call it unstructured information, that once you get beyond the retargeting aspect, can you make me smarter quickly? I think the thing about it is, Rajiv showed a slide, it said the human API. I think that is the most underutilized or under-focused on part of the tech stack. And that's just one of the things, and we have a bunch of clients here that will tell you, if you talk to any of our clients, is we over-service in order to make them smarter. I think that's the key differentiation. A lot of companies are out there with great technology. I just got interviewed before I came on stage for 5 minutes, and they said, what is the core difference about your business versus the other DMPs? And I was the only person that answered, our people. So I think by putting people on the back end of making our clients and clients like publishers smarter, because let's face it, folks like Weather don't have people sitting around waiting for things to do. You don't. And the fact that you could staff up a business and focus on the human API, the human intelligence for a publisher or marketer, I think is undervalued.
Anyone want to pick up on that human talent point? Yeah, John?
Well, I think RTB is the modern ad network, the blind network, where often we're targeting the audience, and Rocket Fuel and Tremor and all these people doing very well. But where are you actually putting the brand? And we heard earlier, the brand dollars want to have confidence, security, know where they're going. But it's kind of like a black box. And if you're just retargeting someone without realizing exactly the page where they are, the keyword context, then in a sense, you are very blind.
Yeah.
I think we've got to make RTB, less blind, more transparent.
Yeah, I'm into that. How many agencies in the audience? Hands up. Come on, folks. No one will assault you. All right. Question for you, Jeff. So what I've seen a lot of is agencies, as their margins are getting cut a little bit, they're a little bit under duress, are moving to the point where, based on the resources they have available, they're saying, okay, big media houses and big publishers, we're probably going to spend more time working with you in terms of new innovations, new ideas, because we only have so much time in the day. And a lot of the others we're going to push to aggressively using programmatic. What do you think is that true? Are you seeing that as well? And how do you think that's affecting the ecosystem?
So I do think there's some truth to that. I mean, and that doesn't necessarily mean it's separate from programmatic, though, because a lot of the big publisher conversations are happening inside of private marketplaces, and how can we use programmatic to actually do things with big publishers? But they definitely want to leverage their big relationships. As it relates to the margins, it's pretty complicated to talk about agency margins, and I know a lot of times on panels like this, people say, hey, their margins aren't sustainable. You have to remember that the majority of their business has really low margins. The agency trading desks have started to make really healthy margins. And so usually when people are complaining about agency margins, they're talking about agency trading desks.
Yep.
I do think that the agency trading desk margins will compress a little bit, more than a little bit, but I also think that they're constantly looking for ways to make more margin in the business that they already have. And so, and they look at their trading desks as examples of how their margins can improve. And I think those margins will improve for the very reasons that we're talking about, which is we have to add the human component to this massive technology discussion. And companies like ours are focused on getting rid of the black box. And in fact, internally, we affectionately refer to it as the clear box, which is let's let everybody look inside. Let's let human beings back into the decisioning process. Because it's not enough to just point a black box at it and, as I often say, send my check to Cabana number 17, because we'll just let the machines do all the work. It's just not possible.
So let's pick up on that a little bit. So we are seeing a trend with large agency consolidation, with sort of the obvious ones happening. I think everyone in the room is familiar with what's going on with Omnicom, et cetera. Based on that, can you just quickly go down the line and tell me what you think the future of the centralized trading desk is at an agency?
So, well, we work with a lot of trading desks, about 100 of them, just on AdNexus, and we see a big range between a sort of Xaxis compared to a kind of very DR sort of boutique. I feel the big agencies have got the wealth of aggregating a huge amount of data. So I think the data analytics and the insights is extreme. I think the first-party cookie and harnessing that to what people actually read and do, so not the search on Google, but my reading habits, is a very powerful tool. And I think the DMPs, I think these agencies are going to build out very robust, very detailed DMPs where they can carve the audiences up and deliver that one-to-one. But I just wanted to say the biggest margins I see aren't the sort of 50% on the trading desks, which is great. I think the best margins I've ever seen are from publishers. So in London, the Daily Mail is a very advanced team of people trading. They do a huge amount of audience extension. So they booked a very high value, let's say, mobile operator brand. They're not just serving it on their pages, they're serving it to their own users out in the best context. You know, everything to do with Windows and Samsung and everything, Windows 8. And they get great CPAs, but they're buying at such a cheap price. So the biggest margins I've ever seen is the intelligent publisher going buy side.
For the marketers and agencies out there, we make no money as a publisher, no money, just so you know. Andy?
I'm proud to say that we work with Daily Mail to make a lot of that happen.
Yeah.
So I will take a little bit of a different view than yours. Coming from the ad network world prior to Lotame, ad networks invested huge amounts of money in people and technology and optimization, huge amounts. And one of the reasons the Rocket Fuel IPO is so successful is because at the end of the day, some marketers don't care about getting smarter. They want a result. Many marketers do. Yeah. And it will never stop. Whether it's DR, brand, I don't care. And my biggest fear from an agency trading desk perspective is that they will never be able to invest to the level of what an outside company would in their tech stack, in their infrastructure, and in staying cutting edge. We're seeing it right now in the mobile space. In the mobile DMP space, the trading desks are not at the same level that a lot of outside companies are. I also think there's a bit of a conflict when it comes to quote-unquote first-party data and how a trading desk manages that across clients. Are you sharing information and unstructured data knowledge from client A to client B? Because ad networks do. Rocket Fuel certainly is leveraging what they know about the biggest client inventory sources that work versus what doesn't. Do agencies do that? Do trading desks do that? I think there's a lot of issues around that.
Eric?
I think it's a big systems integrations play. I think as the market continues to evolve, there's an opportunity for the people who are the buyers, the ones who actually spend the money, whether they're direct or an arbiter, an agency in the middle, to better understand and incorporate technology into all of what they do to fundamentally drive greater efficiency and greater value on an impression or per execution basis. A lot of what's happened in ad tech over the years is it's a leveraged game, not just leverage of dollars and inventory, but it's a leveraged game of knowledge where in the early days of what we've thought of as online advertising, there were companies and continue to be companies whose sole value proposition, and this is a good thing by the way, but whose sole value proposition is I'm going to get smarter about this sort of execution faster than you can because my margin structure will allow that. Agencies typically haven't lived in a world where their margin structure empowers them to go very deep on a topic. They have to be broad, they have to be experts, but their expertise has to in many ways rely upon a network of others. I think actually agencies are in a tremendous position, and we can spend panels all day long talking about margin structures and how those exist and whether or not they should, but I think agencies are in a tremendous position to take the corpus of knowledge they've gained over the course of the last 17, 18 years of digital advertising and do more and more with the technology as the direct technology vendor to their clients versus spending time merely acting as a veneer or a filter, which is often what has happened historically between smart people who can better invest in the tech than they can.
Yeah, so I agree with Eric. Agencies are in a tremendous position to add a bunch of value. To your question as to whether or not it'll be centralized or not, It probably won't be centralized long term. We may go through some ebbs and flows, but to me, the more important point is that there is no question that there will be agency trading desks. That they will be successful, whether that's called the Mindshare trading desk or whether that's called Zaxis or whether those businesses morph or not, TBD. But agencies are in a phenomenal position to leverage the size that they have, as well as the learning they have, the buying power, all those sorts of things. And because it's in their DNA to add service, and we need to have a human component on top of the technology, they are in a great position to do that.
Great. So I'm going to switch tacks a little bit, and maybe this one is directed to you, Eric, though certainly anyone else can. So publishers, a lot of publishers have seen direct sales CPMs decline. And clearly we've heard again and again about the year of mobile, people looking to mobile and mobile-first strategies as a way to get out of jail on that. I'm not necessarily seeing that gap being bridged. So where do you think publishers, what do you think they should be doing to manage against that?
Wow, what do I think they should be doing and what do I think they are doing? It's a mix. What do I think most publishers are doing? I think they're freaking out. Audiences are moving to mobile at this pace that hasn't been paralleled elsewhere in other channels, and buyers are figuring it out. that builds a big gap in the middle. You know, it's interesting. I hear a lot of publishers saying, I don't want to make the same mistakes we made in display. I don't want to outsource my entire ad sales organization to an ad network and let them go determine my future. And yet, ad networks and mobile are doing pretty well. So people are actually using the ad networks. I hear a tremendous amount of conversation about
exporting data to some activation layer to make money. And in those two instances, with both clients, client A, their usage and their CPMs are up anywhere from 40 to 60% over that time. And in client B, which is Daily Mail, when we first started working with them in the UK, we were only on their tier 2 inventory, i.e. programmatic audience extension. And in the past quarter, they've moved us across their entire data set. And it's been a huge win for our company. It's been a huge win for them because their CPMs in a declining environment have steadily gone up and their usage has gone up along with it. So I think they're a good example of somebody that's using data to further their business.
John?
Well, I could give a Mail Online example, but I'll go back a bit. We were very much working with publishers, so Thomson Reuters, which you know well, and others. And it was actually a guy at Group M who said, John, you know, I think we can use keywords to know what we're going to buy before we buy. So a client, kind of by accident, said, you know, try AdNexus. It's like, what is AdNexus? And then to end up with 120 buyers, the most used app on AdNexus, absolutely fantastic. This guy, Tim, you know, basically, I've never taken him to lunch. I've never taken him on one of those. I've never even drunk a beer in a pub with him. Now, you'll probably know in London, that's how we do ad business. So the idea that we've ended up being, you know, really popular on AdNexus, all because Tim said he's now at Zaxis, give it a go. For me, that's the best relationship because in a way, there's no bribery there. It's just results.
Okay, we have about a minute and a half. If we can just go down. When you speak to the next generation of kids graduating college and you want to pitch them on coming into this industry, not to your company, but to this industry, what would you say to them about the experiences you've had that you think are the most compelling?
Well, my son actually did an intern at our company just the other day, and he said to his mum, you know, I want to stop doing my day job in the supermarket on Saturday because I earn more money from my 50,000 download app than I do working in the grocery store. He's still at school. So I think the young generation kind of get a lot of this stuff. I think they're very much into the mobile social experience. So I think we've got a lot to learn from them as they come into our teams. It's not the other way around.
Yeah. Andy?
I think that my key answer would be this is such a fast-paced environment that it is attractive to a lot of people that want to stay cutting edge in technology. It's something that it'll keep you up at night some nights because you feel like you don't know what's going on. I think that's the biggest thing. Every one of us on some level inside of our company thinks we have a knowledge gap. We don't know something. And we all rise to the level of our incompetence. We all have that insecurity. And I think it's good and healthy. And that's what I would say is that you're never going to know everything. You can go into another industry and be a professional and be that A player. You may never be an A player, but it is exciting and cutting edge.
Eric?
Use your intuition, be audacious, and don't ever be willing to accept that things should be the way they are because that's the way they are.
I would say get to the core of our industry as quickly as you possibly can. So understand the mechanics. So take a job for at least a brief time doing trafficking, do things that are in the very center of this business, because if you have that understanding, you can do anything in this space. And there's going to be more opportunity. There's more opportunity in front of us than there is behind us. And there's a lot of people in this room that have made a lot of money in this space.
All right, cool. That's our time. Thank you, guys.
Thank you. Good job.